And some people sit and pontificate, I think, about whether leaders are made or they're actually born. And the reality is like true leaders typically ignore these type of arguments and instead they focus on developing the leadership qualities needed for success. Good evening, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. Tonight, I'd like to share with you as part of my research project these 5 leadership traits and leadership qualities that I have found through the research. And those are elements that people look for in a leader. If we're able to increase, let's say, these skills or these leadership elements, people, it will be easier for people to want to follow us. The less time we have to spend on getting others to follow us, the more time we'll have to spend refining exactly where we are and defining that path, those tactics on reaching where we want to go. So let's dive into those specific 5 traits specifically. First one is honest or honesty. Second one is forward looking. Third one is competent. Inspiring is number 4. And the last one is intelligent. So in terms of the research, these 5 qualities come from Coases and Posner research into leadership. And this was completed for a book called The Leadership Challenge. So when it comes to these specific skills and leadership qualities, they're correlated with the people's desire to follow your lead. So it's quite important to not only exhibiting these traits, but also being consistent on showing these specific traits and actually applying into day-to-day activities. It is important, again, not only to exhibit, model, and display these traits, because let's say if you possess one of those traits or qualities, it's not enough. It's certainly not enough. People want to see that you're actively demonstrating these qualities and they want to assume that you have them, right? You need to show them, you need to be doing the work, and you need to be showing by or leading by example and showing those traits in the field, right? So for instance, I'll give you a quick example, like the fact that you're not, if we look at honesty and being honest, the fact that you're not dishonest doesn't mean that you're honest, right? So you need to go beyond that element, not showing that you're not dishonest, but actually showing elements that people will recognize that you're honest. So that's just a quick reference regarding that concept. So moving on into the honesty concept, it's quite interesting. Like back in the days, people assumed that because you had a leadership role and because you had that authority or that position, you were honest. But when you look at it and all the different and recent scandals like the BP, British Petroleum, and other corporate scandals, it's kind of a shift around. So people doesn't recognize leaders as being honest. So one of the things is to take, let's say, a position in which you think that people will, let's say, will take you as dishonest, and you need to build that honesty as you go, and actually showcasing that those honesty activities or those honesty traits. So that's one of the key things that I kind of re-emphasize from that perspective. So it's quite important to not only just mention about being honest, but also demonstrate that on regular activities. So the second one is being forward-looking. So as a leadership trait, that's quite important because we need to understand where we are today, where we want to go. And not only that, sometimes leaders fail to recognize maybe they have the vision, but they're not able to articulate or they're not able to share that vision with others. And that's the main hurdle, the main challenge. So we need to be able not only to have that forward-looking vision, but also being able to communicate that vision in a very clear, very concise manner to our team or to, let's say, to our organization specifically. Third one is being competency as a leadership quality. So people really want to follow someone who is competent. That doesn't mean when we look at a corporation, an organization, that you need to know everything or you need to be an expert every single area, but you need to be competent. So you need to be able to display that competency on regular basis. So let's just give you an example. Like people will look at you and they will say, okay, now that's why he's the one in charge, because you're demonstrating competency. So from that perspective, it is essential that we're able to show that competency let's say from the field perspective. I used to call it from the hands-on perspective. The next one is inspiration. Actually, did you know that inspiration comes from in spirit? So in spirit, it's obviously being present, being engaged, being driven. So being able not only to be inspired, but being able to inspire others, it's essential. So a great example of inspiration, for instance, is Steve Jobs. So I do remember this quote when he was trying to steal the CEO from Pepsi back in the day, and one of his questions was, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you really want to change the world?" So those are type of phrases of inspiration elements that they actually drive action, right? So being able to inspire, being able to motivate people into action, I think is essential and part of the research that shows to be one of the key elements. And finally, intelligence. Intelligence is something that is difficult to develop because it requires also that will, right? I mean, you can develop intelligence by committing yourself on ongoing learning. And from my perspective, that's one of the key traits for leadership. I mean, you need to be always be willing to learn and be willing to be constantly learning and getting new things, new elements. So that's one of the things with the, I mean, we think about it. We have like too many options, too many tools to get new information, access to audiobooks, multiple articles. So we have a lot of information. So that willingness to get information and become more competent and therefore more intelligent can definitely help us. So in summary, these 5 leadership qualities can certainly position us as a better leader, and that will increase the likelihood for people to follow us. So based on the research, these are the most important traits that people look for in the leaders. So if we're able to exhibit them on regular basis, we will be able to grow our influence as a potential leader. So that's pretty much what I have to share today. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.